Today we're here with Mr. Tom Alston of Aero and Marine Tax Professionals. Can you just share with us, what does Aero and Marine Tax Professionals do? What is your specialty?
We only do one thing. We help people who are subject to assessment by the state of California for use tax. Even though our pitch out into the public says legally avoid sales tax, it's not possible to legally avoid sales tax, but we have to use it that way because that's the way the industry refers to the tax. A lot of people are under the misimpression that use tax is property tax. Sales tax and the use tax are a tax based on the transaction. They're at the same rates. The difference is who is responsible for reporting and paying the tax.
Interesting. So when someone's looking at making a purchase, a large purchase, I mean, an aircraft is a huge purchase, what do they have to think about? Why would someone call you? What happens when someone makes that interest and goes, okay, this is what I'm doing? At that point, when you get them on the phone, what is the direction you go? What do you tell them you need to be looking at?
Well, usually by the time people call me, they're at the tail end of the transaction. They already have their financing in place. They already have their insurance. If they're using one, they already have their aviation attorney. And that's actually a real late in the progress of the chain. It's ideal that when you start thinking about acquiring an aircraft, that you assemble your team of us being the sales and use tax experts, whatever aviation attorney that you're going to use to make sure that you don't create problems in your ownership structures. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea for you to get involved with whoever is going to handle your property tax situations, because as far as I know, those are three separate areas of responsibility.
Fantastic. Okay. And then most recently, you were in Fresno to hold one of the seminars. Aero and Marine Tax Professionals travels the West Coast holding seminars and workshops to share the information you know and bring together the industry. So tell us what happens, and maybe we can take Fresno as an example.
Well, I approach it from the standpoint that the people in the audience know nothing about it, what we do and what they need to know. So I start the presentation off with the viewpoint that you need to protect yourself from any taxing agency, and I try to go through a set of circumstances to reorient the guys in the audience who I'll approach as potential buyers, to reorient the way they look at tax auditors, because whenever I'm telling them about things that are the traps they can fall in, or any of the portions of the exemptions, I know that immediately their walls go up. They're defending themselves. I can just see it in their face. Well, that doesn't apply to me, or I can get out of that. And so what I try to do is shift their mindset as I take them through a list of what California can use to decide whether you are a resident or not. And I try to have them change hats. I try to have them become the guy who's just been audited, just been hired by the Board of Equalization, and he wants to be a hero, and he's looking for all of the bullets in his gun belt to attack the mean and rotten taxpayers, the rich 1%ers who could buy an airplane, and trying to shift them to how could I use these pieces of the law to attack people. And so I take them through a bunch of subsets of the description of what is a California resident. There's two reasons that I do that. One, if I can get them to understand that they're under attack, they're more than likely to receive my information and be able to deal with it intelligently as opposed to just blowing it off. But the other reason I do that is because I want to make the point that if they're an out-of-state resident and they think they're going to be attacked or assessed by the Board of Equalization, and they take it to their out-of-state CPA, he's going to tell them not to worry about it because they're not a resident of California. The missing piece of data in that is that CPAs are all IRS income tax specialists. So they're operating off the income tax definition of a resident that California has. What they don't know is that the state of California, for the purpose of sales and use tax, uses the definition of a resident out of the Department of Motor Vehicle Codes. And there's no way that they could possibly know that without being, as such as I am, an expert in sales and use tax. So, there's just a whole bunch of, there's a little list A through I of things that can make them a California resident for the purpose of sales and use tax, and that, to narrow it down even farther, only applies to one of the three possible exemptions. But it's the way that they can trap people who bring their airplanes into California, even though they're a resident of out of California, and they can assess some tax.
When you hold these seminars, have you found that seminars is the best way to reach these people? Or let me ask this, you can either go to a seminar or you can even call you. Is that correct? It's a free service to sort of get this information?
Yeah, I mean, I publicly promote my phone number. I will talk to anyone about their concerns, whether they're getting ready to buy an airplane or they've already bought it and then they think about, oh no, what do I do now? That call is always free. The only time it becomes not free if the caller and I discover during the conversation that there's something that I can do to help them. Then I tell them what I'm going to charge them, what I'm going to do for them, and they still get to decide whether they're going to hire me or not. I don't charge them for that call.
Okay, well now take me as a potential person that would have called you now. Okay, so we're at that point. How much money can you save me if give me a range. An airplane can what? Cost you $500,000 up to tens of millions of dollars, correct?
The easy way for you to think about it is that in California, it depends from county to county. The use tax rates are different. They range from around 8% to around 10%. So I'll ask the guy, where is he going to primarily hangar the airport? That establishes the tax rate. So from that point on, the two things that I ask them, what are you going to buy and what are you going to pay? The reason I want to know what they're going to pay and where they're going to hangar it is that I know what tax rate to tell them. So if a guy's buying a $500,000 airplane and it's in San Francisco where the use tax is almost 10%, it's real simple. It's a $50,000 project. And I explain it to them by making the absurd example. So if I create a strategy for you that costs you $51,000 to avoid $50,000, that's not a very good proposition. And I go, correct, because I want them to get on the side of the answer, yes, yes, yes. But the reality is they have to know what I can save them before they can make a factual or logical assessment of whether my services are valuable to them.
So tell me that example. So in that $50,000 example, what am I going to pay you?
If they're coming in new and the purchase is in front of us, they haven't taken possession yet, it'll cost them it'll be $5,000.
Wow. So we're talking 10%.
Yes. The easier way to figure that is that it's approximately 1% of the purchase price.
That's a great way to think about it. Now tell me, Mr. Olson, can you share with us, who is the team? If I'm not ready to come talk to you yet about the taxes, because all I know is I want to buy an airplane. I know that my business is in a place where it's time to buy an airplane because we are going to go places where commercial airlines aren't going to be helpful. What is the team in your experience? Because you've been doing this over 10, 15 years, correct?
Longer than that.
Okay. Okay. So what's the team I need to talk to start this process if I want to buy $1 million aircraft?
Well, if you're not the kind of guy who does everything himself, everything I'm about to say applies to you. You need to have a good broker that goes out and finds the aircraft, because if you're buying a $500,000 airplane, a pretty good chance it's a used airplane. Or it might be one of the factory guys in your state. But find someone you trust and then have a discussion with him about what your mission is, how you're going to be using it, where 80%, in other words, in the pocket where most of your flights occur. And then he should be able to recommend to you the type of airplane that you should purchase. So you start with a guy that becomes your representative to go out and find or acquire this particular airplane. You can make an analysis to a real estate agent. If you want to buy a house, you sit down with your real estate agent and you say, I want a single story, less than a half acre, at least 4 bedrooms, it's got to have 3 baths, I need a 3-car garage. And you just give all that information to your real estate broker, and then they go find you a bunch of houses to go look at. And it's very, very similar type of thing that you go through. But find somebody you trust.
Okay, good. Okay, good. And is that the main person, or is there any other people on that team?
Well, ideally, you want to have someone who is kind of overseeing an aviation attorney who will kind of oversee the contracts to make sure that your side is represented and your interests are protected. Hopefully it's a guy who knows not only contract law, but also understands all the FAA rules and the IRS rules so that he can ownership structure meets whatever your IRS strategy goals are. So you start with a broker, you make sure you had a good FAA attorney. You probably should have a CPA involved who's done airplanes before, because it's a very, very highly specialized area. I think that if you're in California, that I should be on that team, because I'll keep you out of trouble with the state of California. And if you're thinking about being in and out of California, you also have to think about the California property tax people, which I have access to all those people, so I'll bring them into the conversation.
Who would you recommend as an attorney, your attorney team?
I do most of my stuff with Kevin Austin and Nate Pietala from Merrill Law. They have an office in Bellevue, which is the Seattle area, and then Nate is in Southern California at Orange County. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that differentiates us from most other, whether they're CPAs or attorneys, is that my clients, as well as my referral sources, have my cell number, and they can call me 24 hours a day, and I'll answer it. I had a guy sent me a text it was on a Sunday morning, and he sent it at about 5:45. He said, when you wake up, please call me. So I called him right away. And he says, don't you ever sleep? And I said, do you? I mean, it's like, when people have problems, they don't only have problems from 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday, and half days on Friday, and never on Saturdays and Sundays. They'll always come up at off hours. So we've just, we're about never cutting a communication line with the potential someone reaching to us with a problem, because we want to help them with it.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Olson, for spending this time with us, and we'll wrap it up now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Glad to be here.